Hello and welcome to Tech Deals. Gigabyte's NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1060 G1 Gaming 6GB dedicated gaming graphics card. What is this? Why should you watch and why should you care? Well, in short, if you want to be able to play all current games at Full HD or 1080p resolution, and you want to play them at very high or better detail, and you want to play at a smooth, average 60 frames per second rate, then you've come to the right place. This is definitely a card you should consider. First of all, if you're new to my channel, welcome. And if you're not, welcome back. I have reviewed other 1060 cards on my channel in the past. I'm filming this in November of 2016. Some of you may very well ask, why in the world are we looking at a GTX 1060? They've been out for months. Isn't there anything new to review? Yes, there is, but this is still worth taking a look at. First, some background info, then I'll take a look at this specific card, then I'll do an unboxing and show you what it actually looks like and talk to you about my plans for this and the other cards. Background info, I have reviewed other 1060 cards, links to those in the video description below. You will find down there MSI, EVGA, Zotac, and Asus. I've looked at other cards in the past. I've done game performance videos on these cards. So why a new one? Well, a couple of reasons. First of all, price drops. Some of the cards I previously didn't consider worth buying have had their prices come down. This card has dropped almost $40 from where it was at launch. I thought it was a little expensive back then, but this card I just picked up for $260. At $260, that's the same price I paid for the little EVGA single fan card. That makes it worth considering. And so the price drops, I did the same with an MSI Gaming X card recently. The price drops are why I'm now considering these larger cards. Because to me, it's all about value. It's deal for the money. When this card was nearly $300 at launch, it wasn't worth buying as far as I was concerned. At $260, that equation changes a bit. What makes this card different than the others? I'll talk about that when I actually open it. Let me talk about the 1060s in general and my plans for this before I do that. First of all, my previous recommendation, I had a video which will be linked below called the Which GTX 1060 Should You Buy? And in that video, I essentially said the EVGA superclocked. When that video was filmed, only the 6GB cards existed. Now the 3 gigs existed and the 1050 Ti's and some other cards are out. So when I filmed that video, only the 6 gig cards existed, and at the time, the EVGA superclocked was $260. The Zotac Amp Edition was $280 or $20 more, and I said it was a perfectly fine alternate choice. And then the Asus Strix Republic of Gamers card was $330, which I said frankly was not a good value, but if you like the full color RGB lighting and the looks of it, then fair enough. By the way, that card has dropped as well down to about $300. So all the cards are starting to work their way down in price. At $300, by the way, the Asus Strix Republic of Gamers is still a little expensive. But if you like the RGB, that's fine. I have been asked many times on my videos, does the 2 and 3 fan cards really make a difference in performance over the little teeny EVGA card that I recommended in that first video? Well, I can sit here and tell you, no, it doesn't all day long. But let's find out, shall we? This card not only has 2 fans, it has a custom PCB or printed circuit board and an 8-pin PCI Express power connector for more overclocking, more power delivery, in theory. It does have a larger heatsink and a larger cooling system than the small little mini cards do. Does that really make a difference in gameplay? Because at the end of the day, we can talk about specs and overclocking and clock rates till we're blue in the face, but who cares? I want to know, will this card with its big fancy cooler and its 8-pin PCI Express power connector actually play games faster than the little mini cards, which are either the EVGA or Zotac makes a mini as well. It's perfectly fine. So you can buy those minis or you can buy these big honking cards. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please click the subscribe button below this video to subscribe. You'll get notifications of upcoming videos. I'm going to show you both of the cards running at factory out-of-the-box settings, how they come, and then I will overclock them using the overclocking software to show you just how far they'll go, and then I'll do live game demos of them, and you'll be able to see, using the numbers in the upper left-hand corner of the screen, real-time temperature and GPU load, as well as frame rate to see whether or not does this really go faster than the small mini card. So that's background. That's why this is sitting here in November of 2016. Let me briefly talk about the GTX 1060 as it compares to other cards before I go into the specifics of this and do an unboxing and show you what this is. The GTX 1060 comes in two versions, a 3GB version and a 6GB version. Now this happens to be the 6GB version of the card. They make the exact same card in a 3GB version for a little bit less money. I've previously done a video of 3GB versus 6GB and game performance videos between 3 and 6. It doesn't make as much difference as you think. There are reasons to consider the 6. I actually think the 3 is the better deal, but link to that video in the description below. This card is $260. What else can you get for $260? An AMD RX 480 8GB card is about the same price. The other thing you can do is you can spend an additional $120 and get the new GTX 1070. Is it worth it? Possibly. If you want to play at higher resolutions, if you're interested in possibly 1440p gaming, then you don't necessarily need more VRAM. The 6 gigs of VRAM in here is enough, but the 50% performance boost of a 1070 over a 1060 does make a difference. That's where I would recommend a 1070. The previous generation card before this was the GTX 960. How much faster is this? A lot faster. About 75% on average. It depends upon the game. I've seen a low of 50% faster and I've seen a high of doubling in my various game testing. It just totally depends upon what you're playing. But with an average of 75% performance improvement, that is a huge performance improvement compared to the previous generation of cards. Rarely in one generation does the performance jump that much. If you have anything older than a 960, maybe a 750 Ti, maybe an old 660, absolutely, it is time to upgrade. The difference will be night and day. So that's kind of where the card sits within the market. Oh, one more card I'll mention. The GTX 1050 Ti has been released recently. When I did all my previous 1060 videos, it hadn't yet existed. So how does this compare to that? It is miles ahead of the 1050 Ti. The 1050 Ti is actually the same performance as the old 960. So this is 75% faster than a 1050 Ti. For anybody wondering why anybody would spend $140 on a 1050 Ti when a 3GB version of this card is $200, 6-pin PCI Express power connector not required. That's why. That's the whole reason the 1050 Ti exists, but if you're looking at the 6GB card, then that probably doesn't apply. All right, so this card specifically, let's take a look at it, shall we? This is a nice card. This is a full-featured card, factory overclocked, with RGB lighting and 2 fans. It also uses an 8-pin PCI Express power connector. More on that in a second. You might see there's a power supply sitting here. We'll talk about that in a second. I like this packaging. Gigabyte, I like the fact that you provide this in an actual box. Way too many video cards that I have opened lately, EVGA, I'm looking at you, come in a bubble envelope in a little thin cardboard box with way too little protection. This is a nice box, so good on Gigabyte. It is silk screened with their G1 Gaming right on the front, and it opens clamshell style just like that. And when you look inside, again, G1 Gaming. I know it's a box. It's indicative of quality. I mean, or maybe it isn't, I don't actually know yet, but it's a nice presentation and it feels like it's going to arrive secure in good condition. So I'm gonna give kudos to Gigabyte for packing this properly. We're gonna take this front box out, and this probably has a driver CD and not much else in it. Let's see. Yep. Stick that over here. There's a quick user's guide if you've never used one of these before, and then a driver CD which you should immediately toss over there and never use. Download the latest drivers from NVIDIA.com. Download the latest software from Gigabyte's website, or MSI's if you use MSI Afterburner, which I personally do. Don't use anything that comes on a CD in one of these boxes. Now, let's look at the card itself. Foam, thank you. Nice quality foam. That is well packed. That is not going to get damaged in shipment. I like that. That's very nice. That comes out nicely. Save your box. Save your packaging. In the event that you, A, need warranty service, B, decide to sell your card in the future, if 2 or 3 years from now you go throw this up on eBay and you want to sell it, Who do you think at a similar price point is going to get the purchase first? Somebody who just has the card laying there with nothing, or somebody who has the anti-static bag, the box, the foam, the packaging protection, the original retail box, and says, well cared for, in great condition by responsible owner? You might very well get $10 or $20 more. I know I will pay $10 or $20 more for a used card if I see they have all the packaging. Anybody who keeps the packaging cares. So keep your packaging. It'll save you money. So this is sealed with Gigabyte's special tape, and I will take that off. This is a heavy card. That is heavy. I do like it though, and it's got a nice back plate, which I like. It's got a very nice black back plate across the top. Most of these graphics cards, when they're installed in your computer, they're actually facing down with the fans down. And so actually what you look at is the back plate if you've got a window on the side of your computer. And the Gigabyte logo is actually upside down. I'm holding the card right side up. And the reason for this is because when it's in your computer, then it's not upside down. You can actually see it. That does not light up. That is just silkscreen printed. The RGB lighting is, you know what? It has RGB lighting. If you really want a full color 16.7 million lighting, buy the Asus Republic of Gamers Strix card. It's got a better lighting system. The only thing on here that's lit up is the Gigabyte logo and the fan stop logo. That's it. So it does have RGB lighting, but not much. Personal choice as to whether you care about such things. There are two fans right here in the middle. Now you'll notice there's blank space on either side. If you've watched my MSI Gaming X reviews, those are taller cards with larger fans and there's no space on the side. There is a benefit to the G1 Gaming over the MSI X, and that is, look at the height. This right here, where my finger is where it installs in the PCI Express power slot. This is only maybe 1/4 of an inch taller than the actual slot itself. If you have a fairly thin case and you don't have a lot of room above the graphics card, this will be easier to insert in a case that has less room. Now it's a very long card. Mind you, the end of the PCI slot is here, and so it's double the length of the PCI Express slot. So you need room lengthwise, but height-wise, it's much shorter. Now, if you have a very big case and plenty of room, the MSI card will fit as well, and I would put the MSI in this in the same category because of their 8-pin PCI Express power connector, and that's located right here. Will that actually let this run any faster than the small mini cards such as the Zotac Mini, the EVGA superclocked card, the ones that are really short and small with a single fan? That's what you got to watch for in an upcoming video. Again, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe because I'll do that. I'm going to set them to the same clock speeds and then I will see if I can overclock them and see what I can get out of them. That is a very nice card, very well built. Big, oh, there are copper heat pipes. Will that make a difference? We'll find out. Let me take the protective covers off the ports and briefly talk about what the ports are. And there we go, we've got the ports off. There are 5 video out ports on this card. Now, if you've seen this before, then this shouldn't be news to you because most 1060s have the same ports, but in case this is the first time, I'll go over it anyway. The first port you have up here at the top is the dual link DVI-D port. Please note this is a DVI-D, not a DVI-I. What's the difference? It no longer supports analog signals. You cannot use one of the cheap $2 VGA to DVI adapters to plug in a VGA monitor. You can still use a VGA monitor if you use an active adapter in one of the display ports. Those are about $10 on Amazon or Newegg, but basically those, it's a cable about the length of your hand, and it will plug into the display port and give you a VGA port. It is an option, but it's something extra you have to buy on top of it. That supports up to 1600p resolution. More commonly, it would be 1440p. 1600p is just the 1610 version of that. That will not support 4K, and that's basically the end of the line for DVI. Down here, you have 3 DisplayPort 1.4 outputs. DisplayPort 1.4, as it exists on this card, will support 8K at 60 Hz or 4K at 120 Hz refresh rate. Are you likely to plug this into an 8K monitor? No, you're not. They aren't even out yet. And when they finally are out, I'm sure we'll have all upgraded. But I'm glad that they're putting the standard in now because it means it'll be ready and it promotes monitor companies saying, hey, the ports exist, go make monitors. And if nothing else, hopefully it should drive the price of 4K monitors down even more. There is a single HDMI 2.0B port. That is maybe the most important port on here because 4K at 60 Hertz refresh rate. If you've got a 4K television or a 4K monitor, that will absolutely let you game, use Windows at 4K at 60 Hertz right through the HDMI 2.0B port. That is really nice. You can also connect multiple monitors to this. Let's see if that'll stand up. Oh, that stands up really nice. You can connect multiple monitors. Now, a GTX 1060 is not really meant for gaming on multiple monitors. NVIDIA has a technology called NVIDIA Surround. It's very similar to AMD's Infinity technology. You could, for example, hook up 3 1080p monitors, go into the control panel into Surround and configure them as a single monitor. It has bezel correction to take the bezels out so that it doesn't look like the images are cut and moved over. It's a very smooth image. Your eyes start ignoring the bezels after a while once you get used to it. I've played it with this way on monitors. It's really nice. That being said, 3 1080p monitors is almost 4K resolution. Not quite, but it's 75% of it. You need a lot of graphics horsepower to do that. This isn't really the card for that except for maybe League of Legends, which would actually work nicely on 3 monitors. Here's why I bring up multi-monitor support. Many people like to game on one monitor while having another monitor open for Windows. Perhaps you just have 2 1080p monitors and you want to open up your game, and it could be anything from League of Legends to Battlefield 1, and you're playing on one monitor while this monitor has your chat window, your web browser, maybe you're watching Netflix, maybe you're watching YouTube and watching me. Probably not while playing Battlefield, but you could. That does not substantially strain the graphics chip. The performance difference between just a single monitor gaming and 2 monitors, one gaming and one just displaying Windows, is very minor. A couple of percent, you'll never notice the difference. It will absolutely do that. So if that's not something you considered or not something you thought you could do, yes, you can. So that'll handle that really, really nicely. One last thing I'll mention about this is it has 0 fan speed technology. I mentioned the fan stop on the light earlier, on the top earlier before. When you're not actually gaming, or even if you're gaming in a low demand game, the fans won't spin. They won't spin up until the card heats up. So your card is completely and absolutely silent until you actually need it. And of course, if you're playing Battlefield 1, whether you have speakers or a headset with all the explosions and shooting and machine guns and hand grenades, you're probably not going to hear the fans anyway. But if you're just in Windows, 0 noise whatsoever. It's very, very nice. I mentioned power supplies earlier, and yes, you saw this when I picked up the card before. This is an EVGA 400 watt power supply. These are less than $30. The reason I mention this is because if your current power supply does not provide an 8-pin PCI Express power connector, I strongly advise you not to use any adapters or try anything else without replacing your power supply. Less than $30 will get you a name brand quality power supply that has 2 of them. This has a single 6-pin and a single 6+2 or 8-pin PCI Express power connector. So you could actually drive 2 video cards or a higher end video card with this if you wanted to. Think 400 watts isn't enough? It's plenty. The 1060 is nominally rated at 120 watts. That's its standard rating for the card. It actually will pull less than that in most situations. You'd really have to overclock it to go much over 120, but we'll take a look at that when we actually do some testing. If you have a nice Intel i5 or even i7 CPU, you're looking at between 85 and 95 watts of power consumption. Motherboard, RAM, and other accessories, 25 watts. Hard drive, solid state drive, DVD drive, Wi-Fi adapter, those are all pretty minor. You're at less than 300 watts for this graphics card, even an i7 6700K, motherboard, DVD drive, SSD, the works. 400 watts is plenty. Now, you can absolutely buy a 500 watt power supply if you want to. They're about $10 more than this. But I'm pointing this out to show that there is an economical option to running nice video cards like this without having to break the bank. Too many people will say, well, go out and buy a 600 watt, gold rated power supply. Yeah, those are $60 or $70. Less than 30 works fine. So that's been my unboxing and overview of the Gigabyte G1 Gaming GTX 1060 6GB graphics card. Boy, that is a mouthful, isn't it? I'm looking forward to doing some game performance of this, and look for those on my channel coming up soon. Like this video if you like it. If you don't, remember to subscribe to my channel with the big red button to get the to get the notification of those upcoming videos. Questions and comments go in the comment section below, and as always, check out the video description, links to my other 1060 reviews, the 3 versus 6 gigabyte video, and most importantly, the links to Amazon and Newegg where you can buy this card, and I will have the list of all the 1060 cards, so if perhaps you don't like this card and you want to consider one of the others, that'll be down there as well. Use those, I'll be very grateful, and I'll be around to make more videos for you in the future. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.